So today we will try to understand the state space realizations based on our understanding of the mathematical aspects of vector spaces and matrices. So that what we discussed in the previous lectures. So those understanding we will in try to apply to understand the state space realization and what information do they actually reveal to us. So that is what is the purpose of this lecture. So we'll start today with that. So as you can see, I have written down a few equations which you are already familiar with, like this one is the state space, the state dynamics of the unforced system. So when you have the control input to be 0, then this is the dynamics, x dot equals to ax. You have also seen this equation y equals to cx, which is the output equation when we don't have any input. So d is 0. When this is the transformation between two state spaces x to z. So this here x is related to z in this manner, x equals to pz, where p is a similarity transformation. So we need to understand what do these equations convey to us. Now when we have the base fundamental understanding, we have a fundamental understanding um, of the vector spaces and matrices, and when a matrix operates on a vector space, what it does, we have an understanding of the rank of a matrix, we have the understanding of the range space of a matrix, the null space of the matrix. So with all these understandings, we would be able to look at these equations in a deeper in a deeper manner, in a with we will be able to look at it with more insight. So more mathematical insight will reveal the actual things which are contained in these equations, the information which is contained in this equation, that will be revealed to us, and we should gain that understanding, and we should keep that understanding while going forward in this course, as well as whenever you utilize this paradigm of state space relations in any of your engineering design or analysis, any aspect. So and these insights will be helpful there also. So actually we will not start with x dot equals to ax, but we will start with this one first. So this is going to be our first equation that we will look into. This will be our second equation that we will look into, and this would be the third equation that we will look into in the discussion of this particular lecture. However, to before we begin with the discussion, I would like to do a set of column operations again, because column operations are very important, as I already have mentioned to you in the last lecture. Column operations are like the foundational numerical technique that will help you to reveal information about your vectors and how your matrices are operating on the vectors, what are they doing exactly. So all these informations are revealed from the numerical exercise of column operations. We get to understand the whether a set of vectors is linearly independent. That is what we are trying to analyze, but we also analyze at the same time about the rank of the matrix. We can understand what is the rank. We can also understand what is the range space, dimension as well as the basis vectors of the range space, what is the null space and the dimension as well as the basis vectors of the null space. So everything we get to understand from the numerical exercise of column operation. So I cannot like overstress this fact that the column operation technique, which is not actually, it is a very simple algorithm, but it reveals so much of information about the systems which we deal with in the vector spaces and all. So let us again try to do two column operations. We will do one will be on a set of independent vectors and another will be on a set of dependent vectors. So let us see. So this is the set of independent vectors. So I already know these are independent vectors. I have chosen them in such a way that they are independent, but we are doing the operation in order to understand whether they are independent or not. Suppose you are given these vectors and I don't tell you whether they are independent or not, then you have to do this operation. What is the order of the identity matrix? 4 cross 4, because there are 4 vectors that we have started with, correct? So we choose the first pivot element to be this one, then the first in the first iteration this column remains same because the pivot element is chosen from here. We want to make this 0, so it is simply a v2 minus v1 operation. Sorry, this would be 0, 1, this would again be 1, this would again be 1, because you are subtracting this vector from this vector, and this subtraction operation gets reflected in the bottom vector also. So this, what you are doing here in order to make this 0, you are subtracting the first vector scaled by 2 and then you are subtracting, so scaled by minus 2 and then you are adding. If you do this, you will get this vector here, this would be minus 2 0 1 0. Then this one you can simply add the first vector and you will get this as 0, this is minus 2 0 1. In the next round we take the pivot element this. Now the choice of pivot element is basically up to you. I have chosen this, and it depends upon your choice, and the final result, the final conclusions will be same, like how many dependent vectors are there, how many independent vectors are there, what is the relationship between the dependent vectors. So this sort of things will come out similarly in if you choose different pivot elements, then also they will come out in the same manner. So it is really up to you. You can choose your own pivot element. I have chosen this one. So now you are getting this. So this is simple addition you should do, so that this entry this row is completely 0 except this one. So you are adding 4. We're adding, so what you are getting is -3, 1, 1, 0. Then this one 0, want to make it 0, so you are scaling with -2 and then adding, so this is also becoming 0 and this is becoming -2. Now you see, you can either choose this one as your pivot element or this one as your pivot element, and you can understand very well that there is no possibility that the entire top column will become 0, but we just to complete the exercise, let us choose this as a pivot element and proceed to see what happens. So we can actually make this 0 and okay, sorry, I choose the pivot element as this one, not this one, but this one 2 plus 0. I choose the pivot element as this one, 1. This would be -half, because you have to multiply with -half and then add in order to make this 0. So this is -half multiplied by this 2, so -3/2 plus 1, which is -half, and this would be 1, 0, -half. This one would be 0, -1, 1, 0, and this would be half. This would be 0, 0. You do your calculation on your pen, on your paper, with pen and paper, and you verify whether this calculation is coming out to be correct or not. So I am simply copying down from my notes. We do one more round with taking this as your fourth pivot element, and you may wish to stop here also, but just for the sake of completion, let us try to do this. So this would become 1 minus half, half. This would 2 minus 3/2, half, and 3. So 0 minus 2, 0, 3, 1, minus 3, 0, and 1. So doing this set of doing this column operation, what we understand, what we gain the understanding is that this set of column vectors that we started with, so these set of column vectors that we started with, this is a independent set of column vectors. So that is the conclusion that we get. This is the independent set of column vectors. So now the next operation we would do with this set of column vectors. Here we keep the first three actually same, and we make the fourth a dependent vector on the first three. I have made it dependent, but just by looking at it, you will not be it will not be very apparent what is the dependency relationship. I have chosen this to be dependent so that I can show you the numerical operation. So this is here. I think I have placed the minus here, and now all these. Let me just check the vectors. 1 0 1 minus plus 2 0, right? So yeah. So another mistake. 2 0. So this, then this is 1 minus. This would be minus. So these four vectors are actually dependent, and it is not so evident what is the dependency relationship. So let us just go forward with the column operations. Let us again take this as the first pivot element, and this remains same. We want to vanish this, so we are subtracting. So this is what we get. We are subtracting after scaling with 2, and we get this. So this is still this, it is similar to the first problem. Now is going to change a bit. 5. So next pivot element that I have chosen is this, and this is what you get. You want to vanish this element, this row, as you want to make it 0, so you are simply adding. Basically you are getting this. So you are multiplying with minus 3 and then adding. This you are getting as 4, this you are getting 2, and this you are getting as minus 4. Now you can see that these two vectors are actually the negative of one another, so these are independent on each other, right? So this is where the dependency was lying, and it got revealed now. So let us complete this exercise. So this would be 0 and 1, and in order to get a 0 vector at the top, now let us choose this as your third pivot, and we get here, so half, and then you multiply half, and then you add, multiply with half, and then you add. So you are getting 1 here. This is becoming minus half. This is half, half, 0. This one is 0 minus 1, 0. For making this 0, you are multiplying with half and then adding the same thing. So this is 3. This one is becoming minus 5 by 2. This one is half, this half. Sorry, this is 3 by 2. 3 by 2. This one remains same, minus. So this one is simply a addition. In order to make this row 0, you simply add it, and also you see this row has also become 0 for this particular column, and you are simply adding. So what you are getting is minus 1 minus 1 1. The operation ends here because there is no more pivot element to choose. The only option was this one, but it is already 0, so no further pivot element to be chosen. So now you see also it is revealed that the relationship between the vectors is like this. The relationship between the vectors is minus v1 minus 2v2 plus v3 plus v4 equals to 0. So this is the dependency relationship. Or if you want to express now any of these vectors in terms of the others, you can use this relationship and express it. So perhaps you want to express v4 in terms of the other vectors, you can go ahead and do that. If you want to express v1 in terms of other vectors, that also you can do. So any way you can express. So if you know 3 vectors, any of these 3 vectors, you can get the fourth vector. So it depends on which of the vectors you assume to be known to you, or you assume to be the basis of this you assume to be the basis vectors. So the other vector will become known to you. Okay, so this is the way to go. Now coming to the, so this is what we did. We did the numerical operation only, and we understood that the first set of vectors were independent vectors, but the second set of vectors, which are these, are dependent set of vectors. This is the information about the independence and dependence of the vectors. What information does it reveal about these things which we encounter in our control systems course? That is what we need to see. So we will first look at this one. As we already mentioned, x equals to pz. Now this p can be, p is of course formed by some vectors. P is a matrix which is formed by some column vectors. There are columns in the matrix and there are column vectors. So the column vectors are there in the matrix. Now suppose your P is this one. This set of column vectors comprise to form your P. Then what happens? Then x equals to pz, where your P is the first set of column vectors, which are these. So P is basically equals to 1 0 1 minus 1 1 minus 1 2 0 2 1 minus 1 1 and minus 1 minus 2 1 1. This is one case. Suppose this is the P1, and another case we will see, which is P2, which will be 1 1 1 0 1 minus 1 1 minus 1 2 0 2 1 minus 1 1 1 minus 6 minus. So in one case, as we have already found out, in the one case here, this is having a independent set of column vectors, but here we are not having an independent set of column vectors. So this is the only difference between these two. But what is the implication of this information? What is the implication of this information? So the implication is this, that if you choose any z from here, your p being 4 cross 4, so P is in R4 cross 4, we write it in this manner. So this implies your Z is in R4. Z comes from a fourth dimensional space, so it is like some vector which has 4 elements, and you multiply it with P. So if you multiply with a P which has all independent column vectors, then what will happen? Then you will get a x which is also in R4. This will happen. You will get a x which is also in R4. If you are multiplying with a P which is not having all independent column vectors, then what happened here? So here actually your rank of P is equals to 4. Here your rank of P, as we have calculated, it is equals to 3, because we have only 3 independent column vectors. So in this case your P2 matrix, which was originally this, is basically equivalent to this matrix. Now you look at the equivalent matrix and then some information can be revealed. So if my P2 matrix is having one column as a dependent column of the other 3 column vectors, then in the equivalent matrix one of the columns would be all zeros. That means if you multiply this matrix, suppose I am taking the equivalent matrix, so this is after doing column operations. So column operations basically is a equivalent matrix, so it does not change the rank of the matrix, and that means it does not change the range space of the matrix or the null space of the matrix. All these are related concepts. The rank, the range space, the null space, all are related concepts. So now if you multiply with any z, you multiply this matrix with any z, what you are actually getting, you remember the how a matrix operation on a vector can be expressed as a linear combination of the column vectors. I hope you remember that. So what you are getting is this column multiplied by z1, which is a scalar now, only z1, this column another scalar, this column another scalar. Nothing here comes because it is a zero vector. So whatever be your z4, it cannot actually add anything, it cannot contribute anything to this matrix operation of this vector. So z4 has no contribution here. So what you see, you see three independent vectors. Of course these are independent. Okay, so these three independent vectors are getting added up with some scalars. So this is from the Z space. So this is Z coming from, also coming from R4. Z coming from R4. So you are taking basically any vector from the R4 space. You are taking any vector from the fourth dimensional space. What this matrix is doing? The matrix is giving you a result which is a linear combination of three vectors only. Three vectors only. Now the question is this: how many vectors, how many basis vectors needed to span R4? Of course the answer is 4. How many basis vectors do you have here? Basis vectors are independent vectors. How many basis vectors do you have here? 3. So what is the space that you are spanning? So this space is R3, not R4. So suddenly you see that if your rank is lost, like we have lost one rank here, we have lost the rank by 1. This is how we say we have lost rank by 1. That means that I am able to take any vector from the fourth dimensional space here, or in general it is an n dimensional space, and unable to transfer it to a n dimensional space anymore. I am only able to transfer it to an n minus 1 dimensional space. In this case it is 3. If we had lost rank by 2, then you will see that another basis vector would not be here. Only 2, suppose this has also become 0. Then only this into Z1, this into Z2, and Z1, Z2 can be any scalar. But you have 2 basis vectors. So you would be spanning R2 in that case. So from a fourth dimensional space you would be coming to a two dimensional space. That is what would happen. That is what would happen. Okay. So here you can understand. So the implication is this, that even though you are taking any vector from the n dimensional space, you are unable to yield another n dimensional space if you are multiplying with a matrix which does not have all columns to be independent, So that is the implication. Now always, just by looking at the matrix, we are unable to ascertain whether the columns are independent or not. That's why we are doing the row operation, in order to ascertain this fact, whether the columns are independent or not independent. That is what we want to ascertain. And that is the reason also that we stressed on this fact that P needs to be invertible. Invertible means basically, when invertible means what? That the inverse is existing. So when does the inverse exist? You know, the inverse of a matrix is basically the adjoint of a matrix divided by the determinant of the matrix. So the existence depends on the determinant not being equal to 0. So if the determinant becomes 0, the inverse does not exist. We say that the matrix is singular or non-invertible. So here one fundamental criteria for a matrix to to have its determinant non-zero is that all of its columns must be independent of each other. If we have a dependent column vector, then by doing equivalent this column operation, we find the equivalent matrix, and the determinant of this equivalent matrix will be same as the original one, and there would be some scaling would happen here, as we have done some scaling here. And here if you have lost one vector, like one of the vector has become 0, you can try to you can this matrix is actually very easy. This is a triangular this is a lower triangular matrix, and for triangular matrices the calculation of the determinant is very easy. It is simply the product of the diagonal elements. It is simply the product of the diagonal elements. But this is not just a triangular matrix, it is also having one of the diagonal entries as 0, because this last column has become 0. So the this diagonal entry is 0. So for this matrix the determinant is 0. So this would happen even if this was not the last column but one of these columns. So even if this is one of these columns, one diagonal element, one diagonal entry would become 0 if you have an entire column 0. One entire column becoming 0 means one diagonal entry has become 0. And if you have done the entire column operation, then the final if I may call this as a matrix, then the final matrix that you will see here would be a triangular matrix. And we are doing the column operation because we want to get a triangular matrix. And then the determinant is basically 0. That means it is non-invertible, non-singular. It also means that the one of the columns, at least one of the columns, is dependent on the other columns. And when that happens, when this dependency occurs, that means the rank is getting lost. That means we are unable to transfer a vector from this state space to another vector in the same state space. We are unable to do that. Our dimension of the space is getting reduced. So where we are landing on that range space, which we call the range space, that becomes of a lesser dimension than the original space. This we do not want when we are doing a similarity transformation. This we do not want. If we start with so many number of vectors, we have to come to another space which also have the same dimensional space. The spatial dimension must remain same. If we have lost the spatial dimension, that means we are working in a narrower space or a constricted space, and we will not be able to do whatever analysis we do in that constricted space will not be able to translate back to the bigger space which we started with. So when we are doing the similarity transformation, that is the reason why we have to ensure that the matrix is non-singular, the matrix is invertible. So basically what we are ensuring is that the column vectors of the matrix are all independent to each other, so that we are able to go to a range space which is of the same dimension as the original space. So this is the reason of choosing invertible matrices, so that we can make a similarity transformation. So I hope that this is clear, this much is clear. One more thing I would like to say, Okay, I will highlight that later on. So the next thing that we have in our hand is to understand that y equals to cx. This one I will simply highlight a bit. So when we are saying y equals to cx, then also you see that this is basically a matrix operation, right? So you have all the states, the state vector you are having, you are multiplying with a matrix C and you are getting this y. Normally you have seen so far that C is basically something like this most of the time. So of course all your columns are, most of the columns are 0, only you have one column which is non-zero. So like that you are having your y equals to cx relationship. In some cases C is having all the columns non-zero, that is also true, that is also true. But what is happening here, if you have a C matrix like this, then if you multiply it with x coming from R4, your C is not going to R4. It has already lost. Suppose we don't have a dot here, so this is continuous 0 0. So only fourth dimensional case. So all these three columns are already 0. So that means your y is taken to a one dimensional space. Of course y is one dimensional because y is only x1. So here actually you wanted to take, since you have already defined y as x1, you wanted to take the state vector from the fourth dimensional space to the one dimensional space. That's why you had used this C vector. C matrix has come like this. You have chosen the C like this in order to do that. So if your y was like x1 and plus x2, then you would have utilized a 1 here. Now you can say that even then y is in R only, right? Yeah, that is true, y is in R because this is still a scalar, but you are able to utilize the another dimension. So from R4 space, in the first case only the coordinate x1 was utilized. Now you can utilize x2 also, you can utilize x2 also. X3 and x4 cannot be utilized in this case. So this is the implication of the C vector, and so I will not spend more time on C because it is not so important as this similarity transform P and the state matrix A. So next I will go into the state matrix A and see the implication there. Actually here your rank of C can only be 1, that you can observe. So rank of C can only be 1 because the number of rows is 1. So no matter how many number of columns is there, the rank will of course only remain as 1. So it would basically take you from whatever dimension of space you are having to a one dimensional space only. These zeros are only telling you which of the entries in the fourth dimensional or n dimensional space are contributing to form your output. That's all it is revealing here in this case. So suppose your C was like this. Suppose your C is like this. 1 0 0 0 and 0 1 0 1 0 0 1 0 0 like this, and your x is x1 x2 x3 x4. Then what is the rank of C? The rank of C, we wish that the rank of C is 2, because we want to take the y, see this is y, sorry, the y would go from the 4th dimensional space to a 2-dimensional space. That is what we want it to go to. We want it to go to 2-dimensional space. So that is why the rank of the C matrix must be 2, because there are two outputs y1 and y2. They should be independent of each other, otherwise defining two outputs separately does not make any sense. So these two outputs must be independent of each other, and hence the space that would be covered by this output y would be a 2-dimensional space. So your rank of C must be 2. Rank of C must be 2, which is the dimension of the range space also. So it should be 2. So here you can see that these two rows are independent of each other. So the rank is actually 2. If you do the column operations, so this is actually the final column operation set of columns. So you can see there are 4 columns and 2 of the columns are non-zero. So the rank of this matrix is 2. Hence the range space has dimension 2. So everything is matching. So we are getting what we want. We are getting what we want. So we don't want it to cover a dimension more than 2 for this particular case. So we are getting that. However, if suppose your matrix was like this, then what happened? Then both this y1 and y2 becomes same, right? And that basically means the rank of this is 1. You can see by the rows also, and you can see by doing the column operation also, that the only one of the columns is non-zero. That means the rank is 1. Okay, so for a 2 cross 4 matrix, the rank being 1 means that I wish to cover a R2 space. I wished to take a vector from the R4 space to the R2 space, but I am able to take the vector only to an R1 space. So I am unable to do what I intended to do, since the rank of the matrix is decreased because of this choice of C. What does this what is actually happening here? So maybe we can see that y1 and y2, just try to draw it, y1 and y2, and another space is there, so we don't need to draw the entire 4-dimensional space x1 x2 x3 x4, because only x1 is able to contribute something to this space. X2 x3 x4 are not able to contribute. So just simply take the x1 line. So whatever your value of x1, basically suppose x1 is this, that much is coming in y1 and that much is coming in y2. So your y vector, which is comprised of y1 and y2, is basically this one, Now if your x1 increases, x1 keeps on changing, right? So this entire vector, the states keep on changing, x1 x2 x3 x4 all keep on changing. However, x2 x3 x4 does not have any contribution, only x1 has a contribution. So no matter where x1 is, your y1 and y2 will always be equal. That you can understand, because they are equal to x1. So what happens, your y is always constricted to this particular line, is always constricted to this particular line. So even though your y was supposed to be in R2, it is not in R2, it is in R1 because it is constricted to a line. That's why it is in R1. This line will depend on the exact relationship, the exact scalars which are governing the equation of this line. In this case, these are 1 and 1. That's why the line is like this. If they were like -2, 3, you could understand where the line would fall. But the point here is that it is not spanning the entire R2 space, which we wanted it to span, because it has lost a rank here. So the rank was supposed to be 2, but the rank is 1 because of this arrangement of the elements like this, giving us only one non-zero column. So that is important. How many non-zero columns are there? That much of space you will be able to span. So if you intend to span a three-dimensional space, you should ensure that your matrix is having 3 non-zero columns after doing the column operation, or in other words, it must begin with having 3 independent column vectors. So that is the case. In the earlier case where we are dealing with the similarity transformation, suppose that there is a similarity transformation which is like this, 1 0 0 for a third order system. So from a third order state space you want to move it to another state space, but you are using this particular matrix. Suppose you are using this particular matrix. Of course you understand that your rank is lost because 1 0 column is there, and these two are independent vectors, you can easily understand. So what does this mean? This means that your operation, your transformation brings the vector from a three-dimensional space to a two-dimensional space. Though we are representing with 3 elements, but what we would see is that the third element is a linear combination of the first 2 elements. How the diagram would look, you see, is a Z1, Z2, Z3. So you have some Z1 and Z2, and that is same as X1 and X2. What is your Z3? You can have any Z3 here, but you see that the Z3 does not influence the X3. That's the reason why X3 is only influenced by Z1 and Z2, and hence it is restricted only in the Z1 Z2 plane, which is the X1 X2 plane. Same, this is also X1 X2, but where is X3? X3 is here. X3 is in the X1 X2 plane only, it has not left the plane. So you can choose your starting vector now can be any vector in this three-dimensional plane Z, any vector. This can be any vector anywhere. However, your landing vector would be some x in the x1 x2 plane only. This can be here, this can be anywhere else, but it is constricted to a plane. That's the important. So you will not be able to actually infer anything about the three-dimensional space by looking at the two-dimensional space. So if you come to the two-dimensional space here and you do some analysis, you do some design, that will not be valid for the three-dimensional space. That is the property that is actually I hope you understand this, that you can project a shadow of a three-dimensional object on a two-dimensional surface and exactly predict what the shadow will be, but looking at a shadow you cannot predict what the three-dimensional object would be. So it is only a one-way transformation, not a bidirectional transformation. So a bidirectional transformation only happens when your transformed space is also having the same dimension as the original space. So I have spent a lot on this on discussing these things on dimension and all these things. So I hope this thing is clear. So I guess I have spent a lot of time on this lecture. So in the next lecture I will take up the x dot equals to ax and analyze it, and hence I am wrapping up with, again I cannot like overstress the importance of the column operations. What it reveals is whether a set of vectors is independent or not. The simple information it reveals. However, it is having a very important significance in our control system design when we are using the state space realizations. Because what are state space realizations? Nothing but we are working with matrices. So the matrices are having the column vectors. So whether these columns are independent or not determines a lot of things. So if they are independent, then we are able to transform from one space to another, keeping the dimension same. Otherwise a dimension is lost and we would be unable to do any analysis on the reduced dimensional space, which is also called subspace, and predict anything about the superspace. So that ability will be gone if we are using a transformation which is having transformation, basically the matrix which is not having independent vectors. So we must be very sure that the rank of the matrix is full, or the matrix is invertible, or the matrix is non-singular. So all these things imply the same thing, that the column vectors are independent. So the check is the column operation. So whenever you are supplied with a matrix, suppose I give you a matrix and say that can this matrix be utilized for a similarity transformation? Of course it is a transformation. So any matrix will transform a vector to another vector. That is the role of a matrix. However, whether it is a similarity transformation or not, then you have to check the independence of the column vectors. Same way we have seen that this y equals to cx, how this is giving us an information about the space where we are taking the state space, we are taking to the output space. So the relationship between these two spaces is given by this C matrix basically. So the rank of the C matrix governs the space where we are taking the output. So if we have two different outputs, the C matrix must be such that its rank is 2. It should not be less than 2, or it should not even be more than 2. So if we want to generate two outputs, my C matrix should be such that its rank is 2. Rank is seen very directly from the number of independent columns in the matrix. Sometimes the number of independent columns are not readily seen. That's why the column operation is important. So that's why we do the column operation. So I hope the importance of column operation is strongly placed in your mind, and the operation is very simple. You just need to be careful when you are doing it. Once you have done it, the information gets revealed. And in the purview of control system design, I have made you understand why we need the similarity transformation to be non-singular or invertible or of full rank. The reason is because we want to cover the same dimensional space even when we are transforming the space from one to another. And also we highlighted about the C matrix. So with this I will end this lecture, and we will take up the state dynamics, the role of the A matrix. What does it mean? That we will take up in the next lecture. So thank you for your attention.